This is a state that continues to deal with human life as it is nothing. This is a state that continues to make murder a sort of nice pastime, and two types of laws. One is a just law and one is an unjust law.
A federal judge rules that Alabama laws criminalizing homelessness are unconstitutional. Like many other cities in the United States, the state of Alabama also has homeless camps popping up in large cities like Birmingham and Huntsville. Putting up fences underneath bridges means that the homeless are left with almost nowhere to sleep, so they're making makeshift camps right outside of the highways. Cities in Alabama have a murder rate 7 to 8 times higher than cities like Los Angeles or New York City, which means that not only are the homeless being persecuted by the law, they're also forced into ever increasingly dangerous neighborhoods.
Don't get it mad at me, I ain't did this shit.
Yeah.
And everything, shit, I was born into this world.
Despite there being hundreds, if not thousands, of abandoned properties in the city of Birmingham, most of the homeless people are camping out around the downtown exits.
If you respect the rules, you can maintain freedom, and you won't get harassed if you express the rules. It all depends on your behavior.
Okay.
You can't go out here and misbehave.
Venturing into the residential neighborhoods of Birmingham, Alabama would be too dangerous for the city's homeless population, so despite fences around the bridges, they find where they can, places where they can camp out within the city cores of Huntsville and Birmingham. Again, Birmingham, Alabama's murder rate is 7 to 8 times higher than other large cities. And with homelessness being now practically illegal in the state of Alabama, this already vulnerable group will now make good candidates for criminals to target.
Alabama has so much hospitality, can have my utmost respect about it. I ain't never had no problems down there. Everybody was like willing to give you the shirt off their back.
Despite the fact that these laws are unconstitutional, the state of Alabama does whatever it wants. The state of Alabama is willing to take their state rights ahead of the U.S. Constitution. Hb-56 made being an immigrant in Alabama a target of the law, which made it easier for criminals to target those people. At the same time, the city of Birmingham is starting to knock down all unoccupied buildings within the city core, leaving the places that the homeless people had to sleep non-existent. So while the state of Alabama can find money to fuel the destruction of vacant buildings so that the homeless have nowhere to sleep, this is what the roads in downtown Birmingham, Alabama look like. This is what a school in a predominantly black area of Montgomery, Alabama looks like. Notice that despite the state getting snow sometimes, there's no central heating. In the air conditioner are window units. Some of the windows are busted out, the landscaping is unkept, and these buildings look like they haven't been upgraded in over 40 years. But while there's no resources to give the children safe schools, there are resources to eliminate places for homeless people to sleep within the city limits of Birmingham, Alabama. Being a U.S. citizen of not Alabama descent became a criminal offense in the state of Alabama with state law Hb-56, which was unconstitutional and which has been used to extradite people from the state of Alabama forcefully against their constitutional rights. Now, these are usually business owners, homeowners, and concealed carry permit carriers like myself. Imagine now homeless people who don't have a home, don't have anything to defend themselves with, don't have any money, don't even have a place to sleep. How are they going to defend themselves from the unconstitutional encroachments of the state of Alabama? The answer is they're not. These people are going to have to leave the state of Alabama, and then Alabama will brag about having no homeless people because their laws, while unconstitutional, are effective and great for the people of Alabama. Many people criticize my stance on Alabama on how they treat immigrants that live in that state, saying that I was exaggerating that the laws are unconstitutional. Well, Now that homeless people are also being outlawed with the same types of laws and methods that immigrants are being outlawed, perhaps now the regular people of Alabama will start to open their eyes and realize that there's no way we can continue to have unconstitutional laws and strip away people's human rights, because tomorrow it could be you that's homeless getting your rights stripped away. It's not a problem when it's happening to other people. It's a problem now that it's happening to you. I run into homeless people on a daily basis where I live here in Bradenton, Florida, and they are usually some of the nicest people I meet throughout the entire day. These laws against homelessness in Alabama originated in the city of Montgomery, usually around Eastern or around Southern, and sometimes off of Perry Hill. You would see people begging off the highway intersections or underneath the underpasses, like you will in any city in America. Macon, Georgia to the east, Louisiana to the west, Tennessee to the north, Florida to the south. In all directions, there's homeless people and beggars throughout the entire country. While most states try to find ways to help these people, Alabama wants to incriminate them and force them to leave their state or be subjected to the state's jail and prison system, which is, by the way, the worst in the United States. How bad are these prisons in Alabama? Just last week, a Hispanic male who was in for doing a double DUI manslaughter was killed in an Elmore County jail or prison. Allegedly, a group of inmates did it and the guards did not intervene. It is assumed that many of the murders that are happening in Montgomery, Birmingham, Mobile, Huntsville, and other cities throughout the entire state are actually carried out by inmates who are allowed to leave the prisons, and thus they're not even a suspect when the law looks for who committed these murders. They're complicit with law enforcement that is corrupt. Other people report that inmates within the Alabama correctional system are able to hold complete social media lives, uploading videos daily of their lives within the prison systems. This also goes unchecked. And while Birmingham has one of the highest murder rates of any city in the United States, law enforcement is not focused on going after criminals. They're mostly focused on pulling over people in areas that have high percentages of Hispanics, somebody that they can implement Hb-56 on, even if they are U.S. citizens or permanent residents, to either frustrate these people or to see if they can somehow aggravate their legal status. Checkpoints like this are unconstitutional all throughout the United States, but the state of Alabama conducts these checkpoints, especially around areas that have large Hispanic communities. That, after all, was the intent of state law Hb-56. They have shamelessly done this to immigrant communities in Alabama, and now it looks like they're going to start doing it to the homeless. And once the state of Alabama is done going through the homeless, who knows who else will be the victim of their unconstitutional practices. And you might say, well, if you end up homeless, usually that's because you're addicted or whatever other reason you may come up with. Let me tell you that I had a house paid off cash in the Montgomery, Alabama metropolitan area, and I left my beautiful home empty, and I left to be homeless in Florida because we were being persecuted by the law and criminals in the state of Alabama. My wife is a U.S. citizen, and I am also a U.S. citizen, and we decided that for our safety, we couldn't stay in our paid-off house in the state of Alabama. And to anybody who says that I am lying, I gave myself the freedom of doing a live stream so my subscribers could, with their own eyes, see what was happening to me in Alabama. And while that video is no longer on my channel, a few thousand of my subscribers got to see exactly what was going on in Alabama while we were living there, and the things that me and my wife were subjected to, even though we are U.S. citizens, have no criminal record, and own our house outright. We came to Florida homeless with nowhere to sleep until we had somebody from the state of Florida give us legal representation so that the people who had changed the locks on our house, moved into our house before transferring the money to us, finally coughed up the money, and we were able to find ourselves a housing accommodation with the money from our home. Don't for a minute think that you watching this video from home cannot go homeless. Right now, there are farmers in Texas who are complaining that there's so much crime going through their property that they're being forced to leave their property. So it's just like me and Katie had to leave our property in Alabama because we were being threatened. There's people in Texas now who are leaving their properties behind, not knowing what's going to happen to those properties. Most likely they're going to break in, they're going to destroy those properties, steal what they can, and trash the rest, because that's likely what happens to you. This is happening all over the world. I mean, there's entire countries where people have had to flee. Take the United States right now. As I travel, I'm seeing people from Ukraine, Russia, Venezuela, Haiti, and Cuba that are showing up here on U.S. soil. A lot of them have huge sums of money. They left their countries to escape with their lives, with whatever sources they could leave with, usually losing houses and properties, but at least having enough money in their bank accounts, they were able to make it to the United States and start a new life here. So don't think that you at home are exempt from being homeless. A lot of times when people end up homeless, it's not because they're criminals, it's not because they're addicted, it's because they're victims of crimes. I met a couple in Naples, Florida, who bought some furniture off of me, and they told me their story about something that happened to them. They were both bankers, had good credit, and had a lot of money in the bank. Somebody stole their credit card information and sipped all the money they had in the bank. Because as bankers, they were required to have good credit scores. When their credit went bad, not only did they steal their money, but they also took out fake credit cards in their name, ruining their credit. They lost their jobs because their jobs required that they have a good credit score. So they were both homeless. They both lost their home. They lost all the money they had in the bank, and their credits were left destroyed. And despite all their efforts, they couldn't stop people from continuing to get more credit cards and continue to inflict more damages after they tried to fix everything. They ended up homeless. Luckily, some friends helped them get back on their feet. They bought some furniture off of me and were able to start their lives off again. They went from very successful lives, lots of money in savings, great credit scores. They lost everything, including their jobs, overnight because somebody stole their identities. So don't think for a moment that you sitting at home right now are above becoming homeless because you have a house paid off that's worth a few $100,000, because you have $50,000 or $60,000 in the bank. Me and my wife woke up one day, we looked at each other and we said, wouldn't we rather be homeless in Florida than in a mansion in Alabama? We looked at each other, we said, yeah. We packed our stuff and we left. And we were really happier homeless in Florida than we were in the beautiful home that we created in Alabama that today somebody else lives in, and they obtained that home through extortion, through fraud, through intimidation. I hope they're enjoying it. And as you can see here, Confederate grave sites in the state of Alabama are kept up better than the schools for the children's future. A state that continues to care more about its past than it does about the future of its people, where cemeteries of the past are kept up better than the schools of the future. That is the state of Alabama, where at any moment your human rights can be stripped away and unconstitutional laws can move forward despite federal judges saying that they're unconstitutional. Nothing stopped Alabama from carrying out HB-56, not only to the full extent that it was written, but even further than what it was written. The intention of HB-56 was not immigration. It was to suppress, eliminate, and extract anybody who was an immigrant from their state. There's no way that HB-56 was an illegal immigration law. I'm not illegal. I'm a U.S. citizen, and they applied the law to me to strip away my rights as a U.S. citizen. And that is what's about to happen to anybody who becomes homeless in the state of Alabama now. And don't expect anybody to intervene. The U.S. Supreme Court doesn't get involved in state rights, because last time that happened, we know how it ended. All right, my man, where we at?
We at Martin Luther King Boulevard and Interstate I-10 in Beaumont, Texas.
All right, welcome to Texas. You got a smile.
I am happy.
All right.
I can die and go to heaven right now.
Whether you're rich or poor, homeless or in a mansion, the person that you are here in your heart ain't got nothing to do with what's in your pocket.
Right. And just standing homeless on the corner watching the cars, you wouldn't believe how many sad faces I see.
Yeah.
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 I'm glad I don't have that yoke around my neck.
No, you don't, man. You know, you can't let your situations put you down.
You can't live.
Like, there's people that they lose a house, a big house and nice cars. They lose all their monetary possessions, and then they feel like their roads come to an end. But then there's people that got nothing, and they still find happiness. Like, tell me what are the things that bring you, small things that bring happiness to you every day.
To see other people happy.